Why do so few truly love their jobs? Many believe it's a lottery. But what if that's a lie? Simon Sinek reveals that genuine fulfillment stems from feeling valued and belonging, a concept powerfully illustrated by the Marine Corps' Officers Eat Last principle. Imagine senior leaders waiting, serving junior Marines first. This act of profound sacrifice builds unbreakable trust and loyalty, inspiring everyone to protect and serve. This wisdom creates high-performance cultures. Overlook it and you undermine human potential.
Our primal need for belonging. Welcome back to Audiobook Bites. Today, we're diving deep into Simon Sinek's powerful work, Leaders Eat Last, and unlocking the profound truth behind the circle of safety, our primal need for belonging. This isn't just about corporate strategy, it's about understanding the very essence of human thriving. Sinek posits a compelling mental model, the circle of safety. Imagine it as an invisible, protective boundary drawn around a group of people. Inside this circle, individuals feel secure, trusted, and valued. Outside, that's where the real dangers lurk: the relentless market pressures, fierce competitors, unpredictable economic shifts, and rapidly evolving technologies. You might be thinking, surely we should be most concerned with the external threats that can sink a company. And yes, those are real. But here's the profound insight. When people inside the organization don't feel safe from each other, when mistrust, office politics, or infighting prevail, all their energy is diverted inward. They spend precious resources protecting themselves from colleagues, rather than uniting to face the challenges from the outside. Therefore, an organization with a strong internal circle of safety can direct all its collective power and ingenuity outwards, tackling external adversaries with unmatched resilience. Sinek illustrates this with a timeless metaphor from Aesop, the fable of the 4 oxen. A lion stalked a field where 4 oxen grazed, but could never attack them as they always stood tail to tail, their horns facing outwards, protecting one another. It was only when they fell into a quarrel and separated, each grazing alone, that the lion could pick them off one by one. The lesson is clear. Internal harmony is the ultimate defense. This isn't merely a nice idea, it's hardwired into our very being. As Sinek emphatically states, it's not a management theory, it's biology. Our primal biology dictates that we thrive when we feel safe within our group. This allows us to direct our energy outwards to confront external challenges. The circle of safety is this internal environment of trust and cooperation, where individuals feel valued and protected by their leaders and colleagues. And who creates this sanctuary? The leaders. Great leaders sacrifice their own comfort, even their own survival, for the good of those in their care. When this circle is strong, people collaborate, innovate, and solve problems more effectively, knowing their backs are watched. Picture an organization where every team member wakes up inspired, feels trusted, and is certain that their leaders and colleagues genuinely care about their well-being. Imagine the creativity, loyalty, and sheer grit that unleashes. This is not a utopian fantasy. It is a biologically optimized state. The bottom line: the health and success of any organization don't just rest on its products or profits, but on the depth of trust and safety its leaders cultivate within. And the way any organization can achieve this is with empathy. If you want to build a workplace where trust thrives and people feel truly safe, subscribe to Audiobook Bites now so you don't miss our deep dives into the strategies that transform organizations and lives.
2. Selfish versus selfless incentives. Welcome back to Audiobook Bites, where we extract the core wisdom from transformative reads. Today, we're diving deep into Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, specifically exploring the fascinating world of our internal chemical cocktail and how it drives everything we do. Our brains are wired with an ancient, powerful incentive system. It's not a management theory, it's biology. This system, honed over millennia for survival, uses 4 primary neurochemicals, which Sinek cleverly abbreviates as EDSO: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These aren't just random feel-good drugs. Each serves a vital purpose in our individual and collective journey. First, let's talk about the selfish chemicals, endorphins and dopamine. Imagine our early ancestors, hunting a gazelle for hours, pushing past physical exhaustion. What kept them going? Endorphins. These natural opiates mask physical pain, giving us the incredible endurance to persevere. Think of a runner's high. That's endorphins at work, pushing us to achieve. Here's the catch. Once that gazelle is spotted or a goal is in sight, dopamine kicks in. This is our progress chemical. It rewards us with intense satisfaction as we make strides toward a goal. Spotting a fruit tree in the distance, getting closer, finally reaching it. Each step, each small victory, releases a hit of dopamine, driving us to keep going, to find food, to build shelter, to get things done. It's what makes us goal-oriented, constantly seeking accomplishment. But this powerful drive, while essential for individual achievement, can be hijacked. We see it in our modern addictions to instant gratification, from social media likes to chasing quarterly numbers. Dopamine gives us quick highs, but it doesn't build lasting fulfillment. Therefore, relying solely on these selfish chemicals can lead to burnout, isolation, and a perpetual chase for the next hit. So far, these chemicals are all about me. But what about us? This is where the selfless chemicals come in, serotonin and oxytocin. Serotonin is the chemical of pride and status, not in an egotistical way, but from earning the respect and admiration of our tribe. It makes us feel strong, confident, and valued by our community. Remember Sally Field's iconic Oscar speech? "You like me, right now, you like me." That's serotonin coursing through her veins, reinforcing her connection and value to her peers. Leaders, in particular, rely on this. The more they care for and support their people, the more respect they earn, which further strengthens their leadership. Then there's oxytocin, the chemical of love, trust, and empathy. It's the warm, fuzzy feeling we get from deep social bonds, hugging a friend, helping a stranger, knowing someone has your back. It's the glue that holds communities together. This is where true leadership shines. Sinek famously recounts the Marine Corps philosophy. "Officers eat last," he said. This isn't just a tradition, it's a biological imperative. Great leaders sacrifice their own comfort, even their own survival, for the good of those in their care. When leaders demonstrate this selfless commitment, oxytocin flows, fostering deep trust, loyalty, and a willingness among the team to protect each other. You might be thinking, this sounds like soft skills or touchy-feely stuff, but it's fundamental to our biology. When our chemical system is in balance, when we're driven by both selfish achievement and selfless connection, we thrive. Conversely, a lack of environments that foster serotonin and oxytocin leads to a culture of paranoia, cynicism, and self-interest. This imbalance not only affects our well-being, but also cripples an organization's ability to innovate, adapt, and succeed long-term. Imagine waking up tomorrow in a workplace where this balance is deeply embedded.
You'd feel not just motivated to achieve, but also genuinely cared for and connected to your colleagues, ready to face any challenge together. This is what it means to work in a place in which the leaders prioritize the well-being of their people, and in return, their people give everything they've got to protect and advance the well-being of one another and the organization. It's a virtuous cycle. The bottom line, understanding our neurobiology reveals that leadership isn't just about driving performance. It's about cultivating an environment where our innate need for belonging and trust is met, allowing both individuals and organizations to flourish. If you want more insights into building cultures that thrive by understanding human nature, subscribe to Audiobook Bites so you don't miss our next deep dive into impactful leadership. 3. The Peril of Distance. Welcome back to Audiobook Bites, where we distill powerful insights from Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last. Today, we're diving into a chilling concept: abstraction kills. It's about how distance can erode our humanity and lead to devastating decisions. Imagine a world where the people you impact are no longer real faces, but distant data points on a screen. Sinek reveals that abstraction comes in many forms. It's the physical distance between a CEO in a corner office and the frontline worker. It's the numerical distance when people become headcount or metrics. And in our digital age, it's the virtual distance created by endless emails and online interactions. This detachment makes it incredibly easy for leaders to make choices that, while perhaps beneficial to the numbers, inflict real pain on real human beings. To understand this peril, Sinek revisits the infamous Milgram experiment. Picture this. Volunteers acting as teachers were told to administer electric shocks to students, who were actually actors, for wrong answers. The shocks weren't real, but the teachers believed they were. Here's the catch. The further away the teacher was from the student, meaning the less they could see or hear the student's distress, the more likely they were to administer maximum, potentially lethal shocks. The chilling truth? When we can't see or hear the impact of our actions, our capacity for inhuman behavior skyrockets. It's the ultimate just following orders defense, enabling us to rationalize harm when human connection is severed. This isn't just a psychology experiment. It plays out in our world every day. Think about the Peanut Corporation of America, where executives knowingly shipped salmonella-tainted products to hit financial targets. The president, Stuart Parnell, was worried about costing us huge dollars. Customers became mere numbers, and the human cost, 9 lives lost, hundreds sickened, was ignored. Why? Because the decision-makers were abstracted from the human impact. They saw spreadsheets, not suffering families. But it gets worse. Consider the Titanic disaster. The Oceanic Steam Navigation Company knew the existing regulations for lifeboats were outdated, designed for much smaller ferries. They had the space to add more, but chose not to, prioritizing cost and an appearance of safety over actual safety. Therefore, when the iceberg struck, over 1,500 souls were lost. The company adhered to the letter of the law, but utterly failed in its moral obligation. The decision-makers were physically and numerically distant from the passengers they were supposed to protect. When leaders and organizations prioritize metrics, rules, or self-interest over the well-being of their people, trust crumbles. Empathy, a biological imperative for human cooperation and survival, withers when we refuse to see the human faces behind the numbers. This is what it means to work in a place in which the leaders fail to prioritize the well-being of their people, and in return, their people fail to give everything they've got to protect and advance the well-being of one another and the organization. It creates a culture of paranoia and self-preservation, where internal threats become as dangerous as external ones. You might be thinking, but I have to meet my targets. And yes, performance is important. But Sinek argues that true, lasting performance comes from an environment where people feel safe, valued, and connected. An obsession with short-term numbers disconnected from human reality will ultimately lead to long-term decline and ethical failure. The bottom line, leaders must intentionally bridge the gap created by abstraction. They must commit to seeing their people as human beings, not just resources, and understand the profound impact their decisions have on real lives.
It requires courage, empathy, and a constant effort to stay connected to the human element of your organization. If you want to build a resilient, ethical, and thriving organization, subscribe to Audiobook Bites so you don't miss our next deep dive into Simon Sinek's transformative leadership insights. 4. Prioritizing people over numbers. True leadership, as Simon Sinek reveals in Leaders Eat Last, isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. It's a profound shift from a hierarchical mindset to one deeply rooted in human connection, where the strength of a company isn't measured by its numbers, but by the bonds among its people. Consider Bob Chapman, CEO of Barry Wehmiller. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, instead of resorting to mass layoffs, a common tactic at the time, Chapman instituted a mandatory furlough program. Every employee, from the executive suite to the factory floor, took unpaid time off. His powerful message to his people: it is better that we all suffer a little so that none of us has to suffer a lot. This wasn't just a corporate policy, it was a deeply human act. It fostered such immense loyalty that employees who could afford it traded their unpaid weeks with those who couldn't. The result? Not only did they weather the storm, but the company emerged stronger, with renewed commitment and pride. This vividly illustrates Sinek's point. This is what it means to work in a place in which the leaders prioritize the well-being of their people,
and in return, their people give everything they've got to protect and advance the well-being of one another and the organization. Then we have Captain David Marquette, who took command of the USS Santa Fe, a nuclear submarine ranked dead last in every performance metric. Marquette was a brilliant, highly skilled officer, but he quickly learned that his intellect alone wasn't enough. In a dramatic drill, he gave an order: ahead 2/3. The helmsman, trained for blind compliance, repeated the order, but nothing happened. Why? The Santa Fe didn't have a 2/3 setting on its battery-powered motor. But here's the critical insight. The crew was trained to obey, not to think or take responsibility. Marquette realized that relying on permission to meant he was solely accountable for everything, a dangerous flaw in a high-stakes environment. Therefore, he implemented a leader-leader model, shifting from permission to I intend to. He empowered his crew, giving authority to those closest to the information. This wasn't abdication, it was cultivation. He trained them to understand the why behind every action, creating an environment where they felt safe to take initiative and responsibility. The transformation was remarkable. The Santa Fe went from worst to first in Navy history, and its officers became leaders themselves. You might be thinking this sounds idealistic, perhaps only applicable to specific situations like military or small, tight-knit companies. But here's the profound truth. Sinek argues it's not a management theory, it's biology. Our ancient wiring, our need for safety and belonging, means we thrive when leaders consciously create a circle of safety around their people. When employees feel protected and valued, they naturally cooperate, innovate, and take risks for the good of the group, not just for personal gain. Imagine a future where your workplace is a place of deep trust and unwavering loyalty, where everyone feels invested in each other's success and the organization's mission. That's the power of leadership that prioritizes people over numbers. The bottom line: true leaders understand that profit is a fuel, not a destination. They consciously choose to protect their people, fostering an environment where individuals feel safe to take responsibility and make decisions, leading to superior long-term performance and loyalty. If you're ready to transform your leadership and build a team that thrives, subscribe to Audiobook Bites so you don't miss our next deep dive into practical wisdom.
5. The limit of human connection. Have you ever felt lost in a giant organization, like just another cog in an enormous machine? Or wondered why that once tight-knit team became a tangle of impersonal emails and siloed departments? Our human capacity for deep, trusting relationships is finite, and leaders who ignore this biological truth do so at their peril. Today, we're delving into a core insight from Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last, the concept of Dunbar's number. Imagine for a moment a bustling marketplace. You know the faces of your regular vendors, the local baker, the fishmonger, the carpenter. You know their families, their struggles, their triumphs. You trust them. This isn't just a quaint notion from a bygone era, it's deeply ingrained in our biology. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar's groundbreaking research reveals a cognitive limit to the number of stable social relationships an individual can maintain, around 150 people. Beyond this magic number, our ability to foster genuine trust, empathy, and organic cooperation dramatically diminishes. But here's the catch. Our modern world, with its massive corporations and global teams, constantly pushes us beyond this natural limit. We're told to scale, to grow, to connect with thousands, even millions of customers or employees. And when we do, something fundamental breaks down. When an organization grows past 150, people stop being people and start becoming abstractions. They become numbers on a spreadsheet, targets for quarterly goals, or data points in a performance review. And the moment that human connection fades, so does natural cooperation and trust. You might be thinking, but how can large companies function then? Here's the critical insight. Leaders who understand this natural limitation deliberately structure their organizations to honor it. Take Bill Gore, the founder of W.L. Gore & Associates, the company behind Gore-Tex. Years ago, Gore walked onto his factory floor and realized he didn't recognize many of the faces.
He intuitively understood that this was a problem. He concluded that to maintain the sense of camaraderie and teamwork essential for his company's smooth operation, each factory should have no more than about 150. Therefore, instead of making his existing factories bigger, he built new ones, sometimes right next door, each capped at that crucial 150-person limit. He knew it wasn't a management theory, it was biology. Gore's foresight allowed employees to remain within a circle of safety, where they felt known, valued, and protected. In these smaller, interconnected groups, the selfless chemicals like oxytocin and serotonin can flow freely, reinforcing bonds, building trust, and inspiring people to look out for one another. This is what it means to work in a place in which the leaders prioritize the well-being of their people, and in return, their people give everything they've got to protect and advance the well-being of one another and the organization. When people feel safe among their colleagues, they are free to innovate, to take risks, and to solve problems together without fear of internal threats. But here's the common challenge. Many leaders chase external metrics and short-term gains, incentivizing individual performance over collective well-being. Therefore, they inadvertently foster internal competition and distrust, pushing their teams further outside that vital circle of safety. The bottom line: true high-performance organizations aren't built on endless growth or complex systems alone, but on human connection and trust, deliberately nurtured within limits that honor our very nature. If you want more insights on building cultures where everyone feels safe, trusted, and inspired to do remarkable things, subscribe to Audiobook Bites so you don't miss our next deep dive into impactful leadership strategies.
6. Forging bonds in adversity. You know those days at work when everything just clicks? The project runs smooth, deadlines are met, everyone's happy. We often wish for more of those, right? Here's the catch. Strangely, those aren't the days we look back on with the most fondness. Think back to your most cherished work memories. Are they the perfectly smooth projects, the ones that sailed effortlessly from start to finish? Or are they the ones where the odds were stacked against you? The late nights, the unexpected hurdles, the collective sigh of relief as you barely made that impossible deadline? Chances are it's the latter. It wasn't the hardship itself we loved, but the profound sense of camaraderie, the feeling of pulling together against a common foe. Why is this? Our bodies are hardwired for it. When we willingly step up for each other, when we put our own needs aside to support a colleague navigating a crisis, our brains release oxytocin. This isn't just a fleeting good feeling. It's a powerful, selfless chemical that literally deepens our bonds of trust and loyalty. It's why, as Simon Sinek reminds us, it's not a management theory, it's biology. Our physiology encourages us to cooperate, to lean on each other, because it enhances our collective survival. The military offers a stark, powerful illustration of this principle. Soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines don't bond in barracks during peacetime. Their deepest, most unbreakable bonds are forged in the crucible of shared combat, under immense pressure, where trusting the person next to you can be the difference between life and death. They learn to rely on each other in ways civilians rarely comprehend, creating a circle of safety where they fear no danger from within their ranks, only from without. This profound camaraderie isn't just a byproduct, it's a survival mechanism that translates directly to the battlefield. But here's the insidious paradox in many modern workplaces. In our pursuit of efficiency and comfort, we often strip away the very conditions that foster these vital bonds. We try to mitigate all friction, avoid all struggle, believing a smooth path is the most productive. But therefore, we inadvertently starve our teams of the very experiences that build deep trust, loyalty, and genuine resilience. We create environments where people might work competently, but rarely feel truly connected or inspired to sacrifice for one another. Imagine your company, not as a collection of individuals working side by side, but as a tightly knit tribe, each member fiercely protective of the other because they've navigated storms together. That's the power of intentional struggle, led by someone who understands this fundamental human truth. It's the leader's responsibility to create an environment where people feel safe within the team, so they can bravely face challenges outside the team. This means more than just offering good benefits. Sinek highlights that great leaders sacrifice their own comfort, even their own survival,
for the good of those in their care. It's about having the courage to lead your people into productive struggle, not away from it, because you understand that's where true strength and loyalty are forged. You might be thinking, my workplace isn't a battlefield. And while that's true, the fundamental human need for belonging and trust, especially in adversity, remains the same. The strength of your team isn't just about what you achieve, but how you achieve it together. The bottom line, true teams aren't built in comfort, but in the crucible of shared struggle. If you want to build resilient teams and foster unwavering loyalty in your organization, subscribe to Audiobook Bites so you don't miss our next deep dive into transformative leadership.
7. Becoming the leader we wish we had. Conclusion. We've journeyed through Simon Sinek's profound exploration of human-centric leadership in Leaders Eat Last. The core insight, echoing the wisdom of the Marine Corps, is simple yet revolutionary. True leaders don't just manage, they care. They foster a circle of safety where individuals feel protected from outside dangers and, crucially, from each other. This isn't some feel-good fantasy. Sinek reminds us it's not a management theory, it's biology. Our brains are wired for trust and cooperation, releasing selfless neurochemicals like oxytocin and serotonin when we feel valued and belong. But here's the catch. Our modern world, driven by destructive abundance and the abstraction of people into mere numbers, actively short-circuits these biological drivers. Many leaders today, addicted to the quick dopamine hit of short-term performance metrics, inadvertently cultivate environments of cynicism and paranoia. They focus on output, but neglect the human input, leading to cultures riddled with stress and self-interest. Therefore, to truly thrive, we must fight this abstraction. We must bring people together, reduce the distance between decision-makers and those affected, and embrace shared struggle, because that's when our deepest bonds form. This isn't about being in a corner office or having a fancy title. Leadership is a choice, a profound responsibility to the well-being of others. It requires empathy, integrity, and a willingness to put the collective good before personal gain. It requires understanding that great leaders sacrifice their own comfort, even their own survival, for the good of those in their care. Now, who is this approach not for? If your ambition hinges solely on ruthless self-advancement, if you consistently prioritize quarterly profits over human loyalty, or if the idea of genuinely caring for your team feels like a weakness, then this philosophy is likely to be a struggle. It's for those who understand that a thriving organization is built on trust, not metrics. Imagine a workplace where every individual feels safe enough to take risks, share failures, and dedicate their best not just for personal reward, but for the team, for the mission. That's the power of the circle of safety, a direct reflection of leadership that prioritizes people. The bottom line, to build an organization that truly lasts, we must remember that the greatest competitive advantage isn't a strategy or a product. It's a culture where everyone proudly knows that their leaders eat last. If you want to build such a culture, if you want to cultivate loyalty, innovation, and resilience, subscribe to Audiobook Bites so you don't miss our next deep dive into impactful leadership strategies.